back to the Great Northern Creative Show.
Could you elaborate on what it was exactly that brought you into the screenwriting career?
Well, I've been writing plays for a long time, and I wrote scripts when I worked in television, and I made films. So how I got to be a lecturer was an accident, actually. I mean, it was just it happened. It wasn't a plan. It's just something that started. Someone suggested I might do a bit of teaching, and I did a bit of teaching, and it grew from there. Really, it was never my intention to be a lecturer, but that's what I am.
And when you say it's grown, what's some examples of success that you've had? Well,
I don't know if it's my success, but certainly quite a few of my ex-students either work in television or they work in film throughout the industry, and often it gives me a lot of pleasure when I watch a TV show and in the credits I see that the producer of a programme is one of my ex-students, and here at UCLan, because the students are so hard-working and talented, we win a lot of prizes. I mean, this year alone we're showing it at the festival, a film called Headless, which some of the students had, I taught them screenwriting, and they won Best Comedy for the National RTS Award. So that was the best comedy student movie in the entire country. That's nice, because it's not just us saying that we're good, it's people in the industry. That's an industry award. People from right across the industry, BBC, Sky, etc., see that material and they give it to us. So that's a sweet feeling.
So what are you most looking forward to about the festival this year?
Well, there are some events which I'm not involved in, like we've got John Thompson, and anyone that knows the programme called Cold Feet, he plays Pete in Cold Feet. He's a well-known actor, or anyone that's ever watched Bill and Ben. He did the voiceovers for Bill and Ben and many, many other animated series and things like that. So I'll be going to that. But of the things that I'm involved with, there's a guy called Henry Normal who's coming along, and Henry is a very talented writer, but he's also more than that. He's a poet, and he's a producer, and his track record is very long. He's written for the Mrs. Merton Show, The Royal Family. He's produced programmes like The Mighty Boosh, Gavin and Stacey. He's made films such as Philomena, starring Judi Dench. He's worked with Sigourney Weaver. He's worked with Joanna Lumley. He's worked with a whole load of people. And so I think our students, it will be very difficult to attend that session, and it will be a pleasure because he's such a funny guy anyway. It will be very difficult to attend that and not learn a lot in a pleasant way. So that's the best way to learn things.
I can imagine the kind of impact having someone that influential would be to students.
Yeah, we're very lucky to have him. I mean, I'll learn something from it because I was learning something from it. And in addition to all those things, he's up for an award this year for Best Radio Programme for a radio show he made, which I went to, which is his poetry. I mean, he's one of the top poets in the country as well. So he's kind of, he's imbued with a lot of talent. We can all learn a lot from him, and it will be very pleasant because he's a funny guy.
When you say we can learn a lot, what are some things that a screenwriter going into this talk could learn?
It's a good question. I think what you could learn from Henry is his life story, which I don't want to give away here, but I mean, he is a working class guy, and when he first had a job, he was manager of an insurance company, and he decided that wasn't for him. So his whole story of how he got into it is very interesting, because he started off, there's a group called Pulp, and he would be on the same bill as Pulp. They were a big band in the 90s, and he would be doing poems with them. And he's done lots of writing. He did a column in a magazine, which is a humorous column about events of the week. And he just kept doing gigs, and because of that he was known, and because of that he met people like Caroline Aherne, Craig Cash, Steve Coogan. And I mean, when I first met him, I knew him as primarily as a poet, but he, to his credit, I mean this is a compliment, when the opportunities came his way, he really seized them. And certainly Baby Cow, that's the name of the company that he and Steve Coogan ran, from nothing, I think there was a list a few years back of the most influential people in the media, and they came in at number 20. Now that's from nothing to being number 20 in top most influential people in the media. That's pretty cool, really. So we can learn a lot, but the main thing is, what does he do? He keeps writing. He writes poems, he writes gags, and he's a great enabler, because he you know, definitely in my opinion, Steve Coogan, talented though he is, has had a better career because of knowing Henry Normal, same as Caroline Aherne and many other people.
Speaking of writing, we also hear that you've got a new book coming out. Why don't you tell us about that?
It's called Herbert to the Rescue, and I'll be reading extracts from it at the festival. And it's an Arnold Snodgrass story. Arnold Snodgrass features in a whole series of stories that I've got ready to come out. And this is the first one that I published from these books. And Arnold Snodgrass is a strange character who is half man, half lizard. And there's lots of fun adventures in the story. So I'm hoping that we've got to get a lot of young people in for that, and that they'll enjoy the story. That's the intention.
So you see it as one of a series?
Oh, it's definitely one of a series. Yeah, I've written about 5. I've got kind of 5 or 6 which are in early drafts. There are 5 or 6 stories. I might even do some more, but this one is the first one where I've done draft after draft, and it's almost. The plan was to bring it out. I think I'll probably bring it out in the new year, because I just spent so long sort of polishing it, really, that it took a bit longer. But yes, it's coming out. Arnold Snodgrass, Herbert rides again. Herbert to the Rescue. That's it. Yeah.
That's very exciting.
What inspired you to make that? What was the idea behind it?
It's very simple. When my daughters were little kids, I did the normal stories: 3 pigs, Little Red Riding Hood, 3 bears, all those stories, and then I kind of ran out of stories. So I made stories up, and they liked the stories that I made up as much, if not more, than the ones that were the traditional fairy stories. So I'd make up one story, and then they'd ask for it again, and then I'd have to make up another story. So I kind of made them up off the hook, and then I just thought, I better make a note of them for when because then they'd say, well, do that one about this, and I go, what's that? I better keep a note of these. So I kept a note of them, and they were almost fully formed stories. I mean, I have had to add little bits and refine them for publication, but they're basically the stories that I told my kids.
Oh, that's quite a sweet origin.
Well, I can only agree. Yeah, it was sweet. Yeah.
Why do we think that this experience, the festival going on, is a good experience for UCLan students?
I think because when I came here 10 years ago, and it's not all down to me, but there was no festival, so the courses were pretty good and people did okay. But they were basically the courses. People would learn how to use a camera, make a film, and that would be it. I think what's particularly exciting about the festival is you really, and the lecturers here know their stuff. Like the guy that runs the TV course, he's got massively experienced in television, Adam Robson. And the film people have made films, and I've written scripts. But you kind of get used to your lecturers. So here you have a whole swathe of people coming in who are producers, directors, writers, actors, or they've made TV shows or radio shows or what have you. And it's just a fantastic opportunity to meet people that have done these things that the students want to do. So I think for that it's really exciting, and if I'm honest, I think certainly it is one of the best in the country now. I think we really work hard to make sure that our students get the best.
So which events would you say that you would like the most?
Well, I've already mentioned Henry Normal, so that's a big success. That's a hit for me. I think also we've got and there's so many, but there's a screening of an iconic 80s film called Rita Sue and Bob 2, and the star of that film, George Costigan, is coming in. He's also, for people who are unaware of that film, he stars in a hit TV show called Happy Valley. So he's an actor that's been around a long time. He's got a track record. So people will be able to watch the movie, and then the star of the movie will come out and talk about it. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, that would be.
And from my point of view as a writer, what makes it even more interesting is George has just written a novel. So we can talk about that as well. So that's going to be pretty cool. For people that like Top Gear, which, you know, I think Top Gear is a Bovril show. People either really love it or they really don't love it. But we have got the, you know, one cannot argue the fact that it's a very successful brand. I mean, it's a massively successful brand. And we're going to have the director of that. So again, for people that want to work in TV, and the director of that, he is so experienced. I mean, he's done it all TV shows all around the world. So that's exciting. We had John Glenn come in, and he's directed more Bond movies than anyone else ever. So I've got to say, just outside of being a lecturer, the chance to speak to him, and I learned so much talking to John Glenn, and you know, and he'd give you the little inside details of how he'd make some scene look amazingly realistic, when in fact it was all, you know, smoke and mirrors or what have you. And his stories of working with Roger Moore and other Bonds, and you know, all the stuff they did. I mean, for people of my generation, that's kind of like it's a deeply rooted mythic franchise, you know, if there's such a thing. So that was really exciting, and to add to it, John Glenn was such a nice guy. So that was brilliant.
Well, thank you for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure being able to talk to you here.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure.
And hopefully we'll see you at the festival next year.
Definitely, yeah.
That's all we have for today's show. We hope you've enjoyed it.
Thanks to our guests. Definitely looking forward to the festival.
Be sure to join us next time for more from the Great Northern Creative Show.
Goodbye.
Bye.